Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're in international trade, you already know global shipping contracts are a high-stakes game. Today, we're diving straight into the Incoterms 2020 rules. We're going to demystify these so you never, ever lose money on a bad shipping deal. All right, picture this for a second. You've got a $50,000 shipment of high-end electronics out there on the ocean, making its way to you. Suddenly, a massive storm hits, and boom, your precious cargo sinks straight to the bottom of the sea. Absolute nightmare, right? But the real business reality hits the second the storm clears. Because now you gotta ask yourself, who actually pays for that massive loss? Is the overseas factory picking up the tab since it never reached you? Or does this total disaster fall squarely on your shoulders, completely wiping out your profit margins for the entire quarter? It's a pretty terrifying question if you don't know the exact answer. Well, the answer to that $50,000 question depends entirely on a tiny three-letter acronym hiding right there in your shipping contract. We're talking about Incoterms. Short for International Commercial Terms, these are the globally recognized rules that decide exactly who pays for the freight, who's handling the customs headaches, and, most crucially, the absolute exact second the legal risk transfers from the seller over to you, the buyer. To really wrap our heads around this, let's use the best mental model ever, ordering a pizza. Think about it. If you order a pizza for carryout, you're taking on 100% of the risk the second you walk out of that pizzeria. You trip on the curb, drop the pizza, well, that's on you. You're buying a new one. But if you choose delivery, the pizza shop owns the risk until that hot box safely reaches your front porch. If the driver drops it, they make you a new one. Simple as that. Incoterms do the exact same thing for global freight. Just, swap out the pizzas for shipping containers. And they do this by splitting responsibilities into two totally distinct tracks: costs and risk. Cost is pretty straightforward. It's who is paying out of pocket for the trucks, the ships, and the taxes. Risk, though. Risk is who is legally on the hook if those goods get damaged, lost, or, end up at the bottom of the ocean. You've absolutely got to look at both. Because every single shipment in the world moves along a timeline. It goes from the factory floor to the export port, across the ocean, into the import port, and finally to your warehouse. Incoterms essentially dictate the exact GPS coordinate on this timeline, where the baton and all that legal risk gets passed to you. Now, out of the 11 official 2020 rules, there are really just 4 critical ones you absolutely have to master to protect your business. Let's break them down real quick. First up is EXW, or X-Works, which means maximum buyer risk. This is the ultimate carryout option in global shipping. Under EXW, the seller basically just boxes up your goods and leaves them sitting on their own factory floor. Boom, their job is done. You, the buyer, are paying for absolutely everything else: the local trucking in a foreign country, export customs, the ocean freight, the whole shebang. And more importantly, the risk transfers right there on the factory floor. If the local truck you hired crashes 3 feet outside those factory gates, totally your problem. Number 2, FOB, or free on board. This one's often called the golden standard. FOB is incredibly popular because it strikes a really fair balance. Here, the seller steps up a bit. They pay to get the goods out of their factory, through local customs, and actually load it onto the ship. But keep your eye on that risk track. The very moment the cargo physically crosses the ship's rail, the risk officially flicks over to you. So you're covered locally, but that ocean journey, that's all on you. Moving on to number 3, CIF, cost, insurance, and freight. Basically, the seller pays the boat. Now, at first glance, CIF sounds like an absolute steal. The seller is paying for the ocean freight and marine insurance. Sounds great, right? But you've really got to pay attention here, because CIF hides a massive trap for buyers. Honestly, it's one of the most misunderstood rules in the whole book. The trap is this sneaky disconnect between cost and risk. See, even though the seller is the one paying out of pocket for that marine insurance, the actual legal risk transfers to you, the buyer, the moment those goods hit the ship at the origin port. If your cargo gets damaged in a storm at sea, you hold the risk. You are the one who has to navigate the absolute headache of filing an insurance claim with some foreign insurance company, not the seller. It's a huge gotcha. Finally, number 4, DDP, or Delivered Duty Paid, which represents maximum seller risk. If EXW was your basic carryout pizza, DDP is the ultimate white-glove door-to-door delivery service. With DDP, the seller handles literally everything. They pay the ocean freight, they buy the insurance, they handle export customs, and crucially, they clear import customs and pay your local duties. The risk stays with the seller the entire time. As the buyer, you basically just unlock your warehouse doors, grab a coffee, and wait for the truck to back up. When you look at these four terms side by side, it's wild to see how drastically the primary cost bearer and the point of risk transfer shift around. Casually picking the wrong three letters, maybe you think you're getting a great deal on freight without realizing you just absorbed all the risk, that can instantly obliterate your margins if disaster strikes. Which brings us to the most important takeaway from this whole explainer. Before you sign your very next purchase order or negotiate another shipment, I want you to look closely at those three little letters and ask yourself, do you truly know who is holding the risk right now? Because when the literal or figurative storm hits, that is the only thing that's going to matter. Thanks for joining me on this one, guys. Keep those margins safe, and I'll catch you next time.